High above the clouds, the city of Halcyon Drift hung in a cold blue sky, its stone towers chained to giant metal rings and wide platforms that glowed at night like moons. Wind moved through every street, banners snapped across the bridges, and every child grew up hearing one law above all others: the Soul Arena chose the strong, and the weak faded into silence. The people of Halcyon Drift did not fear the sky beneath them as much as they feared being forgotten. In the center of the city stood the Arena Tower, where fighters climbed a brutal ranking ladder one match at a time, and where every victory changed who ate well, who trained well, and who was treated like someone who mattered. That was why the arrival of Astra mattered so much. She was a young woman with black hair tied in a short braid, sharp gray eyes, and plain travel clothes that looked worn by long miles. She had no house crest, no ranked title, and no cheering crowd. All she carried was a small pouch of ash left by a champion who vanished years ago, and she believed it still held a final promise. Astra wanted one thing at first: to climb high enough to learn why that champion disappeared. But the real danger was bigger than her own search, because the Soul Arena did not only test fighters. It fed on their will, shaped their minds, and rewarded the people who could turn desire into power. If Astra could not understand that rule, the arena would break her before she ever reached the top. Astra entered the lowest gate at dawn, where names were written on stone, and each new fighter was marked like a piece on a board. The clerk there was a tired woman named Myra, with brown hair and kind eyes, who handled the records for every challenger and quietly warned Astra that most unknown fighters never made it past their first 3 matches. Myra wanted order in a place built on chaos, and she mattered because she became the first person to treat Astra like a human being instead of a rumor. Astra then met her first rival, a broad man named Vance with red hair, a heavy black coat, and a smile that looked friendly until it did not. Vance was ranked high for a reason. He wanted to keep his place, keep his sponsors, and crush anyone who might shake the ladder under him. He told Astra that the arena did not care about hope, only results. Then the first match began, and the floor changed beneath them. The platform split apart, panels slid away, and the arena itself answered their movement like a living thing. Astra was forced to leap from one broken slab to another while Vance drove waves of force from his palms. In the Soul Arena, each fighter drew strength from an inner soul pattern, a personal style born from memory, fear, and purpose. Astra had never shown hers before, but when Vance overwhelmed the edge of the platform, she touched the ash in her pouch and felt a warm pull in her chest. The ash scattered into the air, wrapped around her arms like gray fire, and gave her a technique that let her read the flow of every step around her. She moved just in time, turned Vance off balance, and drove him back until the crowd gasped. It was not a clean victory, but it was enough to shock the lower ranks because an unknown contender had forced a ranked fighter to retreat. More important, the ash had answered her, and Astra understood that the fragment belonged to someone who had once walked this path before her. As the days passed, the ranking ladder became a storm of pain, praise, and pressure. Astra fought 2 more challengers before she was allowed into the middle tier. One was Tessa, a woman with blonde hair, bright armor, and fast blade work that used the arena floor like a springboard. She fought with pride because her family had served the arena tower for generations, and she believed rank was the same as worth. The other was Jonah, a young man with black hair, a bruised jaw, and a calm face that hid his fear. Jonah had trained his whole life to protect his little sister, and he needed money from the arena to keep their home above the city harbor. These people were not enemies in the simple sense. They were trapped inside the same machine, each one trying to survive by winning. The arena punished hesitation and rewarded force, but it also shifted according to the soul patterns of the fighters inside it. Sometimes the floor tilted like a ship. Sometimes the lights dimmed and only the paths between pillars stayed safe. Sometimes pillars rose and vanished, or cold mist rushed in and turned the ring into a maze. Astra learned to listen instead of rush. She learned that the ash from the vanished champion did not give her endless power. It gave her clarity. It showed her how to shape her breath, how to wait for the exact moment when another fighter exposed their true line of attack, and how to answer with a technique that felt more like a vow than a blow. Each win lifted her name higher, and each higher rank drew colder stares from the city elites who believed the ladder was theirs by right. That was when Astra met Silas, the man who controlled the upper brackets, with silver hair, pale skin, and a smooth voice that never rose above calm. He wore a long white coat with black trim, and the people around him bowed without being told. Silas told the crowd that the Soul Arena was not cruel. He claimed it was honest because it gave every person a chance to become greater than their fear. That sounded noble, but Astra saw the truth in his eyes. He did not love strength. He loved control. Silas wanted the tournament to continue forever because every match fed the hidden system beneath the arena, a buried engine that measured ambition, pressure, and surrender. The stronger the desire, the more the arena answered, and the more the hidden force could shape the outcome. Astra learned this by accident after one brutal battle in which the walls opened and revealed glowing channels under the floor. There, she saw chains of light moving like veins, all feeding into a sealed chamber below the central ring. Inside that chamber waited the core of the ritual, an ancient structure built to push fighters toward the true zenith of human will. It was not enough to win matches. The whole tournament was designed to gather rising souls until one person stood at the edge of absolute force. Then the hidden force could bind that peak and use it to steer the city. Silas wanted that power because the floating city was unstable, and he believed only a single will strong enough could keep it from falling. But he was also afraid. He feared chaos more than cruelty, and he was willing to turn every hopeful fighter into fuel if it meant keeping control. Astra now understood the central conflict in full. If she climbed the ladder blindly, she would help complete the ritual. If she exposed the truth too early, the upper ranks would silence her and preserve the system forever. The turning point came during a public challenge against Darius, the current arena ace, a tall man with black hair, gold armor, and eyes that never blinked. Darius was the hero of the upper city, and people loved him because he looked unstoppable. He claimed he fought for honor, but Astra learned that he once found the same ash she carried and gave it to Silas under pressure, believing it would save the city from collapse. That was the twist hidden beneath the rivalry, because the vanished champion had not simply disappeared. He had tried to stop the ritual, and his ash was the last piece of his soul pattern that remained after the arena stripped him down to almost nothing. He left the ash behind so someone else could finish what he could not. That truth struck Astra harder than any blow. The champion had not vanished in defeat, he had become a warning. During the battle, the arena shifted into its most dangerous state yet. Gravity turned sideways, half the ring rose into the air. Fire burst from the seams of the floor, then collapsed into freezing wind. Darius attacked with all his rank and all his pride, but Astra no longer fought for her own climb alone. She fought for the champion who came before her, for the lower fighters who never got a fair chance, and for the city that had confused control with safety. Her ash technique changed as her heart changed. The gray fire around her arms became a wide shield, then a cutting path, then a steady pulse that let her move through the shifting field without losing balance. She did not overpower Darius by raw force. She outweighted him, read his fear, and forced him to see the same truth she saw. The crowd fell silent when his final attack collapsed into nothing, and for one bright second, Astra stood above the ring with the whole city watching. But victory did not bring peace, because the central chamber beneath the arena began to wake and Silas made his move at last. He ordered the tower sealed, declared Astra a threat to public order, and sent masked enforcers to cut off her path. Astra saw then that the arena was not only a contest, but a machine built to collect obedience. The hidden force beneath it fed on every surrender, every desperate wish, every lie about what strength meant. Myra secretly opened a service passage for Astra, proving that even people who feared the system could still choose courage. Jonah and Tessa also stepped in, each helping in the only way they could, because they had finally seen that rank had used them all. Astra moved through the lower machinery with the ash in her hand, and the fragment began to heat like a living coal. She could feel the champion inside it, not as a ghost, but as a final intention, a simple command to keep going until the truth was seen. When she reached the sealed chamber, she found the core, a giant ring of light wrapped in chains and old symbols. It was pulling every battle upward, feeding on ambition, and preparing to raise one ruler above the rest. Astra lifted the ash, spoke the champion name that Silas had tried to bury, and the chamber answered with a deep roar. The floor trembled. The chains glowed. Silas stared in shock as the hidden force lost its calm mask. Astra did not break it yet because she knew this was only the start. She had exposed the first lie, but the city still stood on top of a system built to twist hope into power. Above her, the ranking board flickered and the next match bell began to ring. Astra drew one slow breath, held her ground, and stepped toward the dark heart of the Soul Arena, ready for whatever waited next.
The next bell rang through Halcyon Drift, and its sound felt cold and sharp. Above the Soul Arena, the city lights stayed bright, but the air had changed. The crowd was still loud, yet their voices now carried fear under the excitement. Astra stood at the edge of the shaking floor, her black braid tight against her back, her gray eyes fixed ahead, and her small ash pouch warm at her waist. She was not a chosen hero, and she was not a born fighter. She was a young woman,
The hidden chamber below the soul arena glowed with a cold, steady light, and that light made everyone still for one long breath. The air felt thin and old, like it had not been moved in many years, and the stone floor gave a low tremble under their boots. Astra stood at the front with her black braid resting against her neck, her gray eyes fixed on the open passage ahead, while Myra stayed close behind her, calm but worried, her brown hair tied back neatly under the soft folds of her record-keeper robe. Vance, the tall man with red hair and a hard smile, watched the darkness with open hunger because he always wanted control more than answers. Tessa, the blonde-haired fighter with quick hands and bright eyes, kept one blade hand near each hip, ready to move if the room turned hostile. Jonah, the slim young man with black hair and a bruised jaw, breathed slowly and tried not to show how afraid he felt. Above them, the soul arena still hummed, and below them, something deeper listened. That was the real danger, and everyone knew it now. Astra had come this far because the ash fragment at her waist had grown warm every time the city trembled, and because the memory inside it had shown her flashes of an old champion who had refused to bow to the first arena council. Myra had helped her read the city records, and together they had learned a simple truth that frightened them all. Halcyon Drift did not stay in the sky by luck or by stone alone. It stayed up because of the sealed machine under the arena, a living core built long ago by the first rulers of the city. The council had claimed it was only a power source, but the records did not match their story. The old notes spoke of a bond, a pulse, and a price. If the machine stopped, the floating city could sink. If the machine woke wrong, the whole city could shake apart. That was why the truth mattered, and that was why Silas had fought so hard to hide it. Silas was the refined man in the white coat with silver hair and cold eyes, and he wanted the secret kept because he believed fear was safer than freedom. He thought people would panic if they learned the city rested on a buried heart that could not be trusted. He was not wrong about the panic, but he was very wrong about the cost of lying. Silas heard her, and for the first time his calm slipped. He ordered the guards forward, and the round hall filled with the harsh sound of boots on stone. Tessa moved fast, her blonde hair snapping as she cut between the first guard and the bridge, forcing him back without striking a final blow. Vance stepped in with brutal confidence, using his heavy coat and broad shoulders to block the second guard, his grin sharp and cruel even while he fought on their side for once. Jonah, though shaken, saw a narrow control panel near the wall and darted toward it, using his thin hands and careful mind to pull a lever that slowed the bridge long enough for the others to keep their footing. Myra did not fight with blades or strength. She fought with words, shouting the old record names from the council archives and reminding the guards that they had families in the upper streets and homes in the wind lanes, not just orders from a white coat. Her voice shook, but it reached them. One guard hesitated, and that single hesitation was enough. Astra stepped to the edge of the bridge, feeling the floor pulse beneath her boots like a heartbeat through stone. She understood then that the sealed heart machine below was not just holding the city up. It was reacting to them all. It knew fear, or something like fear, and the wrong choice could make it collapse into chaos. Silas lifted one hand, and the symbols in the hall flared pale gold. The hidden system under the arena answered him at once, and a deep sound rolled through the walls like a giant breath being held too long. The bridge jerked, the round hall shuddered, and a seam in the floor behind the machine split open just enough to show another stair leading down. Not all the way, only a little, but enough to prove that there was yet another level below what they had seen. Astra stared at that opening and knew the next descent would change everything again. The first chamber had shown them the machine. This one had shown them the lock. The next would show the thing the lock had been built to hide. Silas looked at the opening with fear he could no longer hide, and that fear told Astra more than his words ever had. He was not only protecting a secret, he was afraid of what the secret might remember about him and the council. The city had a history written in bloodless silence, and now that silence was breaking. Astra took one slow step onto the bridge, and the ash in her pouch warmed like a small living coal. Myra reached for her arm, not to stop her, but to steady her. Vance glanced back at the stair and then at Silas, as if deciding which danger he hated more. Tessa stayed ready, eyes bright and fierce, while Jonah stood close to the wall and kept the lever from sliding back. Then the whisper of the ancient champion memory returned one more time, softer now, and it said only this: "Trust the one thing the council never trusted. Choose the bond, not the fear." Astra understood that the message was meant for her alone and that it was not finished. She did not know yet whether the hidden heart could save the city or swallow it whole, but she knew the people above deserved the truth. With her jaw set and her gray eyes steady, she led the others toward the deeper stair, while the round hall of the soul arena groaned behind them and the sealed machine below began to pulse harder in the dark. The next part of the journey was waiting, and whatever lived under the city had finally learned their names. The chamber under the soul arena shook like a living drum, and the light from the sealed heart flashed across broken stone, hanging chains, and stunned faces. Astra stood near the center with her black braid tight against her back, her gray eyes steady even as the floor shivered under her boots. Myra, the middle-aged record keeper with brown hair and tired, kind eyes, clutched a bundle of scroll bands to her chest and stared at the machine with the look of someone who had feared this moment for years. Jonah, the slim young fighter with black hair and a bruised jaw, took one careful step back, while Tessa, the blonde-haired blade user with bright eyes and polished armor, kept her hands near her twin short blades. Vance, tall and broad with red hair and a heavy black coat, did not step back at all. He smiled as if the room belonged to him, and that smile made his cruelty easy to feel. Silas, the silver-haired man in a long white coat, watched from the edge with cold patience, while Darius, the black-haired champion in golden armor, stared at the glowing ring as if he had found the one prize he had been chasing all his life. The central problem was now clear to everyone in the room. The hidden heart of Halcyon Drift had awakened, and if the wrong person took control of it, the floating city above them could be bent, drained, or forced into ruin. Astra stepped toward the glowing ring and told the others to stop fighting for one moment and listen. Her voice was calm, but it carried farther than she expected. She said the city had survived for too long by hiding the truth, and that fear had made everyone easy to control. If they wanted Halcyon Drift to stay in the sky, then they had to face the heart together and choose honestly for the first time. Tessa lowered one blade and looked uncertain, which was rare for her. Jonah nodded slowly as if he had been waiting for someone else to speak with courage. Myra opened her scroll bands and searched for one last record, and her hands shook while she found the line she had always feared. The First Arena Council had sealed away not only the heart, but also a second chamber below it. That chamber held the true control path, and if it was opened by greed, the city could become a weapon. If it was opened by care, the city could be stabilized without forcing the arena to consume its fighters forever. That was the deeper stake now. This was no longer about winning a chamber or beating an enemy. It was about ending a system built on fear and choosing whether the city would keep living by deception or begin living by truth. The hidden chamber held its breath and the air felt thin and cold around the team. Astra stood at the front with her black braid tight against her neck, her gray eyes fixed on the narrow opening in the far wall. Myra stayed close behind her, careful and calm, with her brown hair tucked neatly around her tired face, ready to guide the others if the passage changed again. Vance remained to one side, tall and broad, his red hair catching the strange light while his confident smile looked more like a threat than comfort. Tessa shifted on the other side, blonde hair tied high, polished armor gleaming, her sharp eyes ready for a quick strike. Jonah kept near Myra, his black hair messy around his bruised jaw, his body tense but still steady. Silas stood a little apart, silver hair pale under the glow, his white coat still and clean, his cold eyes watching the opening like he already knew what waited there. Somewhere above them all, the great soul arena kept humming like a living thing, and below that hum waited the next sealed system, ready to decide whether the team would move forward or be overwhelmed. The team moved to the edge of the open passage, and the light from below touched each face in turn. Myra was first to understand what that meant. The council had not only hidden a machine. It had hidden a history that could break the city if revealed too late, and it had left ordinary people to live under a sky held up by lies. Jonah stood straighter than before because fear no longer felt as heavy as confusion. Tessa checked both blades and gave Astra a brief nod, trusting her now in a way she had not at first. Vance watched the open path with hungry interest, already planning how to bend the coming power to his will. Silas remained calm, but the tension in his hands showed that he had found something he wanted badly. Rena took one step back, then stopped, because she knew she could not hide from the truth any longer. Astra looked down into the glowing darkness and felt the ash fragment pulse once more, this time with a clear warning and a clear promise. The champion memory had brought her this far for a reason. The next chamber would not simply test her strength, it would force her to choose what kind of protector she wanted to become. Above them, the soul arena still hummed. Below them, the sealed heart machine waited. And as the team prepared to descend, the hidden passage seemed to breathe, as if the buried city itself had finally opened its eyes. The hidden passage breathed cold air, and the team stepped down one by one. Above them, the soul arena still hummed like a sleeping giant, while below them, the buried city held its breath. Astra walked first, with her black braid tight against her neck, her gray eyes fixed ahead, and the ash fragment warm at her waist. She now knew the truth mattered more than victory, because if the sealed heart machine failed, Halcyon Drift could lose the power that kept it floating. Myra followed close behind, her brown hair tied neatly back, her blue robe dusted from the climb, and her tired face set with quiet courage. She had spent years guarding records for the first Arena Council, and now she saw how much they had hidden. Jonah came next, with his black hair falling over his bruised jaw, his slim hands shaking only a little as he carried the lantern. Tessa walked beside him, blonde hair high and bright, her polished armor catching the weak light as she kept watch for danger. At the round symbol hall, Rena finally broke. The short black-haired woman, wearing her pale work cloak and council badge, admitted that Silas had ordered her to seal the lower chamber and blame the warning on old machinery. She was not loyal by nature, only scared because Silas had told her the city would fall if people learned the machine was not a simple engine, but a living lock that needed human choice to stay stable. Then the ash fragment flashed, and the ancient champion memory spoke through Astra in a clear, calm pull toward the truth. The bridge to the arena core chamber unfolded, and Darius appeared first, his golden armor bright against the dark stone. He stood with Silas and Vance behind him, and their plan was plain now. They wanted to keep the chamber sealed, keep the council in control, and keep the people afraid, because fear made obedience easy. But the champion memory had prepared Astra for this moment. She stepped forward not to destroy the heart machine, but to awaken it safely with the help of Myra, Jonah, Tessa, and even Rena. When Astra placed the ash fragment into the machine ring, the chamber lit in gold and ash gray. The sealed heart machine began to pulse with a steady rhythm, and the city above answered with a deep, gentle tremor. Vance was forced back by the light, Silas lost his calm for the first time, and Darius lowered his fists when he saw the truth. Halcyon Drift did not need control, it needed trust. Astra smiled through tears because she had become the protector the champion had hoped for, and this time, she chose to save everyone together.